Charlton Planning Board will come to order tonight for May 17th, 2017. We'll do with some bills to be paid. We have a bill for postage for $49.44. Telegram and Gazette for $600. Mileage for Allen for $90.25. Mileage for Jane for $67.53. Total of $807.22. We have another one from Campaign That Wins. It's the invoice is included. It's for $595.15. It was to print up the Charlie Crossing reports.
Yes. They gave us a good price. We got a lot of them.
And we have one from Staples for $19.98. And we have another bill from Graves Engineering for 5 invoices, totaling $1,089.71. All the invoices are included. Do I have a motion to accept the bills as read?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We have a little bit of correspondence here. The CMRPC 2017 Spring Legislative Affair Breakfast. It will be held Friday, May 19th, 2017 at 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. The focus of this event will be on educating information and budget study committees and confirm speakers Stephen Kemman and Rep. Kim Ferguson. Is this something you'd be going to, Alan?
No, I don't go. It's more of a politician type of thing. I noticed that John LaFleche is also on the agenda. Yeah.
We have some reports from Graves Engineering for site reports. One of them is dated May 9th, 2017. It's for the Snake Hill Solar Facility. He's included some pictures here showing the vegetation and stuff on his report. I just passed this around for everybody to look at. The town of Oxford will have a public hearing notice. The Oxford Board of Selectmen have received an application from John Lane and Son, 70E Mountain Road, Westfield, Mass. For a 3-year extension regarding their special permit for earth removal on land located off Old Charlton Road, aka Rocky Hill Road and Conlin Road. Any comments on said extension must be received by the town clerk's office in the town of Oxford Hall at 325 Main Street, Oxford, Mass. Before 4 p.m. on May 30th, 2017. The Board of Selectmen will consider said renewal application at their regular scheduled board meeting on Tuesday, June 6th, 2017 at 7 p.m. And that's it for correspondence. We've got a few minutes. Do you want to go over any items before? Or?
Sure. We could do planning board administration right now and then a few items if we still have time.
Sure.
First one is the Barkwood Inn site plan is complete. The last item was putting in the row of landscaping along the fence facing to the west. I went over and checked it out. Everything's fine. So Mr. Gingras has requested tonight just the planning board vote to inform the building commissioner that he's done, and I'd recommend it. So.
I can make the motion that we write a letter to the building inspector notifying that the Barkwood and all they've satisfied all the requirements. It's the second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Second one under permit administration is we have a request from Cleve Blair Jr. for the annual Dresser Hill subdivision approval extension. Everything's fine, but just to give you an update before you vote, he's finishing up in there, has one more house lot, and has also been working hard lately to finish the retention basin. With that heavy rain we had 2 weeks ago, like 3 days of rain, he was nice enough to bring in a couple of pumps before it got a problem. and they kept it from going over because they were in the middle of constructing it, and that was pretty heavy. I had a meeting the other day with Colin Novick from the Greater Worcester Land Trust on several projects, and one thing we talked about, it was himself, me, and Mike Andrade going over things, since the Land Trust is going to be the steward for the open space and the cluster design. It's really time to get going on the conveyance. So what I'd like to request this evening is, besides extending, that the board also direct me to call Cleland and tell him that we really would like to shoot for a September planning board meeting in which he could come in and we just confirm that everything that's required under the approval for the open space, he's completed by then. For instance, there's meets and bounds markers that have to be put in. There's a couple of signs that have to be put in related to the open space, and he's always good on that. But it's time for the board to really initiate and have him get going on it. That'll give him from now until September. He can get all of that stuff done, and then his attorney and the land trust attorney can initiate the conveyance and get it done. I wouldn't recommend that we provide the occupancy for the last house prior to that being done. That's always been the board's policy. This gives him plenty of warning for that. And he hasn't pulled the building permit yet anyway, so I think it's a good time period.
We want to direct Alan to send Claire Builders a notice that to get the open space thing project going, so that we can bring it up at a September meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And
All right, we have a letter here from Claire Blair. Please accept this email as a formal request to extend and approve for the Dresser Hill subdivision. She would like to have it extended to June 3rd, 2018. Do I have a motion to accept the extension date?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
thank you. On my list of a few things for 4 minutes.
Sure.
One, Jane and I wanted to confirm and finalize with the board a summer schedule. We always meet twice in June, and unless we have a need to, we take a month by month, once in July and once in August. So you're still on the 1st and 3rd Wednesdays in June, which is June 7th and June 21st. But we were looking at calendars, and we want to recommend that the July meeting will be Wednesday, July 12th, if it works for the board, and the August one will be Wednesday, August 9th. If that works for you, or you want to adjust it, we're open. But getting to a time period now that we need to decide, public hearing notice.
Gotcha.
I think if everybody writes the dates down now, and over the next day or two, just call Alan back.
Yeah.
And if everybody agrees to it, we can go from there.
Thank you.
All right.
I can do one more.
Sure.
One of the other items I met with, Mike Andrade and I met with Colin, was going over the Gunter property on the north side between Carroll Hill Road and 20, where he wants to do 3 or 4 reduced frontage lots combined with a couple of A&R conventionals. The Mid-State Trail goes through that. So Frank Bashiri, his engineer from Burton, came in. We went over an adjustment proposal that will work very well. So probably in the next week or so he'll submit. If he does submit in the next week or so, we could put it on for June 7th. If not, the special permit will be on for June 21st. So, but it's close, very close. So just thought I'd mention that. And then secondly, again, June will be a busy month. Probably next Monday or Tuesday, Barijo Solar is shooting to submit for the South Gunter property, the solar that they're doing on that. The revisions for revising the subdivision related to it, they're behind. So I've explained that we can open the hearing and hold the first night of the solar hearing, but certainly have to continue it to a date when the subdivision revision catches up with it. So that's kind of in the pipeline. My guess is that we'll have a submittal by the 21st, but we won't have the hearing set up yet. So probably the second night of the solar will be the July meeting. So just thought I'd mention that. I think we're good, Mr. Chairman.
being 7:15, the Charlton Planning Board will hold a public hearing. In accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 9, and Section 200-5.10 and 200-7.1.4 of the Charlton zoning bylaws, the Charlton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, May 17th at 7:15 in the Planning Board office of the Town Hall at 37 Main Street, Charlton, Mass. Regarding the application of Brown Rudnick LLC on behalf of Wireless Edge Towers LLC, 270 North Avenue Suite, 809, New Rochdale, New York, 10801, for a special permit and site plan approval to replace an existing 132-foot lattice telecommunication tower with a new 175-foot monopole system tower and related accessories, ground equipment towers on property at 85 Masonic Home Road, the Charlton Police Station, Assessor Map 34, Block B, Parcel 1.2. Said property is zoned Village District. Copies of the application material are available for inspection at the Planning Board office and Town Clerk's office during regular business hours. Alan, if you could start us off with that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for the record, to explain what, as you know, with previous cell towers, it's an application for both site plan approval and special permit. Site plan approval, minimum of 3 votes, special permit 4. We expedite by combining it into one hearing. And I'll defer to, is it correct?
Ed Perry.
Ed Perry, the attorney representing, from Brown Rudnick, representing the applicant. He'll give an initial presentation, 5 minutes or so general,
Sure.
and then we'll follow through the usual procedure for handling cell tower public hearing notice.
Great, good evening. So my name is Ed Perry. I'm at Brown Rudnick, representing Wireless Edge. So, probably about a year ago, the town issued an RFP for carriers and tower companies to come in and replace an existing tower at the police station. Wireless Edge won that bid, and we have been working with the town to come up with our plans and bring forth a proposal for special permit and site plan review. Just to give you a bearing here, to quickly go over the plans, this is Masonic Home Road. This is the police station building, and what you can't see that I'm pointing to is the triangle, which is the existing tower. So it's a 132-foot tower. It's a lattice-style tower, so it's kind of like one of those erector set things, which the town doesn't allow anymore. They now want freestanding monopoles, which we're proposing. So we've proposed to demolish this tower once we have the new tower up and the police move their equipment over to it. It's about 113 feet to the northeast of the existing location. So we get further back off the road, we get a bit further from the one residence that is nearby. So currently the existing tower is about 186 feet from that residence. We're going to be 257 feet. Now, I brought out some new plans this evening. When we flagged the wetlands a couple of weeks ago, we realized that the GIS maps that we were using weren't quite in sync. We thought we were about 80 feet out of the wetlands. We find out that part of our compound, the fence compound, was actually in the wetlands. So on the revised plan, you'll see we have the wetlands flagged. We've then changed the rectangular form of the compound, which we usually use to track those wetlands. We know we have to go into Concom subsequent to this. I'll also let you know that we also have to go to the zoning board. We're scheduled for June 6th because the bylaw requires that we be 1 times the height of the tower, 175 feet from all property lines, and the lot just isn't wide enough to accommodate that. When they zoned the initial tower for the police station, they in fact granted that variance relief, and we're hopeful that we'll get the same treatment on the 6th. So we'll use the existing access road through the parking lot of the police station. I'm on sheet C2. We'll come down into the compound. It'll be locked. It'll be secured. It'll be a 12-foot gate. We have gone over the changes with the police department just prior to this meeting. There doesn't seem to be any obstacles. We shifted our parking space, which is required under the bylaw, to the southwest, to the southeast. We had initially had it here, but that's not a parking space that we use very frequently. Maybe once a month, carriers come in with their technicians to make adjustments. So pursuant to the town's request, the circled donut here in the center of this fenced compound is the tower location. And then the town's equipment will be located in a shelter here, and then we've provided space for the 5 carriers that we hope, and the town hopes, will co-locate. Another key feature of the zoning bylaw. On C3, you can see a close depiction of what the compound will look like. As I mentioned, we actually had it rectangular at one point, but we had to pull it back from this area. So we're tight to the wetlands, and we'll seek relief from the Concom. This is an elevation of the tower shot. It's a 175-foot pole replacing the 132. As you see, there's no lattice work. There are no guy wires. It's self-supporting. There'll either be a pad foundation or a caisson drilled and to hold up the monopole. The real driver of the height is the town's equipment, so all of the equipment from the existing tower will either be moved over or new equipment will be purchased for the town pursuant to our agreement. A bunch of antennas will go on the top, and then there's some whip antennas will go on the bottom underneath the carrier location. So these 3 slots at the top and then the 2 below are all town public safety equipment. If in fact we get some carriers, we know Verizon's interested. They have an application with us. We expect they will sign a lease and attach. And then we have the major carriers, AT&T, T-Mobile, and Sprint. Hopefully will likewise attach, so it'll provide that co-location opportunity. I think did you have the photo sims?
Yes, there are photo sims in each of the application
Yes.
copies that we provided to the planning board prior to the meeting. I can pass one copy around if you didn't bring it that shows comparison sheet by sheet of the current location visual profile, the current design versus that one, and you can see its commonality. Would you like me to pass it around?
So one thing we did ask for, the bylaw requires either a balloon or a crane test. Because we had an existing tower, which gave us a reference point, we were able to do some photo simulations. So we'd like to request a waiver from the actual balloon test, which seemed pretty redundant. But I do have a set if anybody wants to look through. We did send who I think is the best in the business, Ben Karen, out to do the photo simulations, and I think he did a pretty good job and pretty innocuous for where we're located. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I hope I didn't go over my 5 minutes.
The balloon test, that's just for, to show people what it's going to look like?
That's correct. So it's generally a new tower in a new location so that people have a sense of what it looks like. We can show sort of a depiction as to where it would be. So it's usually for a new tower. With the existing tower, we're fortunate that we could guesstimate exactly what it would look like from behind.
We just had one done just recently for Hocus Hit Down there. We did a balloon test on that. There was a tower that put down there off the shore. They did the balloon test and everything.
The last 2 towers you've done, you waived the balloon test. This is the 3rd in a row that the computer profiles show the same thing.
You'll see, it'll be the same exact thing. It's just you have a technicality of doing a balloon test, and that's what we're asking for. It would produce the same exact report.
Any other questions from the board at this moment? This time, I'd like to ask anybody from the public if they're here for the hearing, if they have any comments on the tower. Alan, could you just walk us through any specifics that we should?
Sure. Just one item before closing the hearing, and then upon closing the hearing, I'll go through the draft conditions of approval. And I'll pass it around if you want to see it. Just being proactive, they've already submitted as part of the application a proposed $25,000 amount for the disassembly bond, performance guarantee. So it just mentions that the pricing reflects 5 different activities related to disassembly. What we do is we have our peer engineering review, Graves Engineering, review the dollar amount.
Sure.
So I just recommend this evening that we don't finalize the exact amount, that at a future meeting I can get comment from Grave that it's sufficient, or if he recommends why it should be different, I can talk to the applicant first and then bring it to the board.
I guess I'd also, if I could, I would also check the lease to make sure I don't know if I think the 25 was consistent, but there may not be an amount there, but I'll point that out if that's the case.
Is there going to be any issues with taking the old tower down as far as the cost of taking the old one down?
Yeah, we're responsible for pretty much all the costs. So we're responsible for the police public safety, I should say, equipment moving over. I think we have to buy new equipment for public safety. I mean, we're obligated, I should say, not we have to. We're obligated pursuant to the lease. We're also obligated to remove the tower. I think we'll have to do some adjustment on the grounds. There's a small sheds. We'll have to do some grading, probably where the old tower is, but we'll remove that. We'll probably grade it. They have a couple of dumpsters and a shed. That's why I was at the police station earlier. To talk to them about that.
Do we have a problem waiving the balloon test?
There's already a tower there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or we'll don't have
Yes,
it.
we can.
Thank you.
I can make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Alan, if you could give us a recommendation, we'll decide to vote
Sure.
tonight.
I recommend approval subject to a brief list of standard conditions we've done for all the cell towers, just specific to this one. Ed, if you have any questions when I'm finished with the list, feel free to ask the board. Number one, the condition that you require for every site plan, special permit, or subdivision plan, that in accordance with the bylaw, you're providing a 2-year approval for the site plan and the special permit, which means prior to the 24-month period, you would pull the building permit. Obviously. Second of all, the standard condition that it's the planning board's policy and the building commissioner's policy that no certificate of operation or occupancy shall be issued prior to the planning board or its agent signing off on the application for the certificate of operation to the building commissioner. Third, that for a cell tower, we receive an annual certification demonstrating FAA compliance, and they've already filed the first one with the application, so it's an annual one. The way it works, Ed, is Jane and I keep a spreadsheet, and we send a reminder out, whether it's you or someone from the cell tower company.
Sure.
Probably someone from Wireless Edge we'd be dealing with.
Okay.
The fourth one, if the tower isn't operated for a continuous period of at least 12 months, it would be considered abandoned, and the planning board would notify the owner of the tower that it should be removed and disassembled within 90 days. If it isn't disassembled within 90 days, then the planning board can initiate whatever legal procedure for drawing down on the disassembly performance guarantee. Fifth, just a reference to the disassembly performance guarantee, that the amount of the guarantee will also be increased annually by 3%. And again, we keep a spreadsheet, we contact each company, and we've got 5 of them. This will be the 6th one in town. And we allow them to do a 3% increase or give us a multiple year increase every few years, and that works out pretty comfortably. Sixth, any extension, addition, co-location, or construction of new or replacement towers can be a field adjustment on a planning board agenda unless they're expanding the approved footprint of the fenced equipment location area. Then the planning board will determine with the building commissioner whether it's large scale enough to trigger an amendment hearing versus just an agenda item. Seventh, the planning board is approving the balloon test waiver request as part of this. And eighth, condition, standard statement, all applicable provisions in Charlton zoning bylaw shall be adhered to. And then the final statement that the granting of this planning board site plan and special permit approval shall not take effect till it's been recorded at the Worcester District Registry of Deeds at the end of the 20-day appeal period, which the town clerk hangs on to the original. You'll get a copy, but then you have to go to the town clerk to get the original, file it. Then the building commissioner, getting that documentation that has been filed at the registry, can accept a building permit application. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
I have one point, if I may. We did ask for one additional waiver. The bylaw requires that we be 500 feet from any residence.
Sure.
We are going to be, I think I said 257 feet, but actually the existing tower is only 168 feet. So it would be important for us just to, firm that up in writing that you did grant that waiver, because it would be better location, less detrimental to the neighborhood, all that dwelling. Again, we will be moving further away from the house, the existing house now, from the existing tower by 70-some odd feet.
Good point. Actually, the last one we did down by the Oxford line had the same waiver. can add that in as a final condition, sure.
Yeah.
So that'll be 9 waivers.
Yes, 9 conditions.
9 conditions.
We don't have to vote on that every time, right?
No, this is a vote of site plan and special permit combined.
Gene, you got anything to talk about? Do I have a motion to accept the site plan for the communication tower with the 9 conditions as Ellen has read?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We'll write it up next week and send it out certified.
Okay,
And we'll be in good shape, we'll take it from there.
great, thank you.
You are.
Good night. Go Celts.
Yeah. 2 o'clock.
Bring it back to us.
Thank you.
And you go to the Rockaway Road, okay?
Yes, if you guys want to come up, we're all set.
Hi, everybody. Going good. See you all again.
As you know, Ron and Jason are on the agenda to submit the definitive for the Rockaway subdivision. So it's not a public hearing. We'll schedule the public hearing at your next board meeting, which is 3 weeks out, because it's not every 2 weeks. We can meet the legal deadline with the telegram next week and open the hearing, no problem, on June 7th. So all they're doing tonight is submitting. If you want to take a moment to look at it for a few minutes, but it's not a public hearing, just visualize to the board, and then the board can vote to accept the definitive and schedule the hearing for June 7th.
So basically, it's on City Depot Road. I don't know if you all kind of saw it from there a couple weeks ago. I mean, 16 units mixed between single and duplex.
You have to pull one out.
What's
You
that?
have to pull one out.
We did. I had to pull out a duplex, but I was able to get a single back in. So, so we got 2, 2, 1, 1, and then the rest of 2. The roadway is about 550 feet to the back of the cul-de-sac.
We do measure the official dead end only to the middle anyway.
Oh, is it?
That's how it
Okay.
works. So.
I guess we're pretty much around
Probably
500.
not.
Yeah. We have a small wetland crossing to get over here, and it's here as well. Swales coming down the side, culvert that goes underneath the detention area here, the detention area over here, and then there's one catch basin down at the base to catch anything that's flood into the City Depot Road. The road grades are bad, it's like 4% coming up, the steepest point. About 1.5% from the entrance, and then it goes up to 4% to the back of the cul-de-sac. Not how much detail you want to kind of get into.
That's about it. Yeah, it's a generality, just
Yeah.
it's the middle.
We have town water or sewer up here?
Town sewer. No water. There's no water.
That's a headache.
Yeah.
Where is that? Where does it come out on 31? No, the,
Oh, driveway?
yeah,
You know where Frankie Hammond's house is?
yes,
Right after.
Continue up.
Yeah, this is city property right here.
okay,
And that's Pike Bridge.
okay,
Opposite Stephen Cox Road,
yes.
almost directly across.
You good?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll give us copies, so you've got everything.
Yeah, I have 6 large copies, 6 of my 17s, 3 of the applications.
Yeah, the drainage.
Yeah, 3 drainage reports, 3 applications. One thing I'm short on is I'm missing 8 green cards.
That's okay.
I have the labels, I ran short on the green cards.
Yeah.
There was 39 of them.
Okay.
But I didn't, do we have to do the budding towns and all that?
Yes, that's part of it. You can bring that in on Monday.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll need it Monday because we have to get it out by Tuesday.
And is it just site plan or also subdivision we have to send out the decision as well?
That's just special permit.
So just one copy?
So one set of envelopes like you've done. If it was a cluster subdivision, which is not, we'd have to do the same mailing certified all over again with the decision. But no, this is perfectly fine. But we really need everything Monday morning.
Yeah,
The few
it's-
little things you mentioned, because we've got a Tuesday deadline with.
Yeah.
with
Yeah, I was
Stella
bringing
on
those
that.
last
Great.
five.
And the fees? You've got the.
What is the fee? We did do preliminary, so.
Well, there's going to be two checks. One,
Yeah,
we have to have it right now legally.
Yeah.
So if Jane can calculate
Yep.
from
We
this.
just didn't do the nine.
It's 39 and then 9.
Okay, want me to get the decision?
So she'll be the purchase power check she's calculating right now.
Okay.
And I'll spend 1 minute telling you your application fee.
Town Charlton.
One's 10.
Yeah, one is
Purchase power.
purchase power. Okay.
I'll look at the plan to calculate your application.
Any cheaters?
Are they cheaters? Thank you, dear. All
They're
right.
cheaters.
What number?
Okay.
I don't know. I just
Not
pick
there
them.
yet.
I just pick them up and try them on.
Segment doesn't in my eye, and I have to go to Jesus down the street.
No, I have the cataract. And what they do is they correct the distance, but you don't. 3 weeks after I had the surgery, they came out
Ron,
with
the
ones that
application
were
fee
correct.
is $1,275.
Is that the town Charlton?
Yes, that's made out to the town.
What do you say, 1,000?
$1,275, $1,275.
Yes.
It's on your desk. Is Rusty for the next agenda? I didn't see him at all.
Anything about that?
They didn't cancel. I'll give him a few. Oh, I'll go see in a minute. He's in the hall.
Yeah, I'm still working on trainers.
Are you staying for that?
I can. I mean, I don't
It's up to him. He's here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Let's see if he's around.
I know he met with Mike Monday, but I didn't hear
Anything
from him.
else to purchase power?
Yeah, so sorry.
Who's Jane? Purchase power, he makes the check out too on the second one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. What's your 315?
Yeah, next time I go to the post office, I'm just going to grab a whole bunch of them.
You want some now, just so.
I'm going to grab some the next day or so.
It's a few minutes, maybe they don't. It's only 7:32.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You have, by any chance, have a copy machine here? Can I get a copy of those?
Yeah.
I forget where they went.
They were made up too. Let 'em out.
Yeah, they, people love that stuff. Yeah.
They work for it?
Excellent, thank you. I'll remember bringing it next time, maybe. Thanks.
I'm not allowed a second check until I show her the first check.
See, that's you're penalized, right?
Yes.
Remember.
I know.
Kidding? I'm a
Taking
CPA and I
all
don't
my
even
shirts.
balance my checking account. I'm like, as long as I have a couple thousand too much in there, I'm good. I'm like,
Wonderful.
pretty bad. My husband freaks out. Like, did you pay that? I'm like, no, month. I guess.
Right.
But stick for 1 minute. So, the next agenda item is Sunset City. They didn't cancel, but they're not here. Maybe they just assumed because Monday Michael was out there and we told them that, you know, you're still working on the drainage and they're still doing work that,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
If you want, we can do one of the,
oh, we,
Since Jay's still here, I
Jay,
think
thank
is
you.
Alan's point.
Yeah.
If we could want to go over the report.
yeah, I just want to hand it out
Yeah,
since he's
no
here.
problem.
All it is the other day there was another field inspection from Mike, and Mike just summarized it. work that's been done to a certain degree and just reminding on a few other things, and that's that. If they show up a little later, we could have a discussion in case they're just late with traffic. But if you want to take a copy with you, so one for you. And nothing to review without them here, other than, again, at the last meeting, we had the list that I had made of the items to focus on from it, and I had emailed it to Amber too, and she responded by thanking me, and they're just working their way through it. That's the last I've heard. I don't know if you have anything to add. I know you're putting together the drainage revision that Michael has to review when we receive it.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
Yep.
Copy for Jane and copy for the board members. And that'll be it for this evening on that, because they're not here.
That's right.
But again, if they're late because of something and they show up, we'd go back to them.
Yep.
The three folks for the next agenda item are in the hall, and we're right on time for that. So
Thank you. Okay.
talk to you soon.
I can sit with you all
I'll see
night,
you
but
Monday.
we're gonna go. Okay?
Yeah.
Yep, we're on the line. You're okay. Have a good night. Good. We got Rob.
Hello, everybody.
Rob.
Rob's here. Yep.
Good.
Yep. He's here.
You're the trustee.
Is this so basically the focus is one issue specifically of trolley crossing?
Not just trolley crossing, but trolley crossing, yeah.
So Rob, we got Rob run the,
We need Rob.
run the show here.
We need Rob.
He's a little shy, so I don't know if he can. I'll try to encourage you.
Buddy Rich.
All right, Rob, we got one favor to ask of you.
Well, first of all, congratulations on getting your articles.
Thank you.
Al, nice job.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We have one favor to ask of you. Celtics start at 8.
Yeah, no.
I got her in DVR.
We want to go home and watch the game.
Yeah, me too.
I think we can forget about getting there for 8 o'clock. That's out of the question.
I'll miss it entirely.
Maybe second half, maybe, Pete. Second half.
All right.
If I could just say a few things to kick off the agenda item. Thank you again for coming in. Rob annually comes in this time of year as a member of the Sewer Water Commission, gives an update as a general conversation, and it made perfectly sense since we've been talking with Rich, with Tom and other people from our January visioning process for the trolley crossing, that they could come in at the same time. So besides general conversation, we can also have a trolley crossing discussion. One thing I Xeroxed, whether it helps or not, Rob, is back in January we received some information, just as general information, everyone in town, about the water main project. So I just Xeroxed for everybody and highlighted in yellow the map route.
Okay.
And also a little attachment that the selectmen had gotten from Kleinfelder. I had given it to the board back then, but I just brought more copies.
Okay.
So if you could maybe initially about 10 minutes, then we can get into back and forth questions,
10 minutes
discussion,
max.
conversation. Just to start, yeah. And then we can roll right in, start
Okay.
general, then we can
Sure,
pull trolley
sure,
crossing
sure.
into the agenda item. Thank
I
you.
brought 2 maps, and Jane's copying right now. And let me see what you had there. I believe I had get a look at this. Okay, all right. Yeah, my map's a little bit larger than this.
Good, right.
And
Just hand
because
these
really
around for
what's the new information is the proposed water line that's going to go up Berry Corner Road to mitigate the issues for some 80 some odd homes that are up there on Ayers Road and also on I think it's the Ellis Way. Alleyway. Thank you, Russ. So that's we'll talk about that a little bit later. There seems to be a little bit of a lag here with Kleinfelder and ExxonMobil. They've been waiting for the property to be purchased down on 169 to where the new pump station is going to be located. So it's the corner of Snake Hill Road and Route 169. And
the owners are willing to sell the property. They've agreed on a price, and that's being okayed right now by, at least that's in front of ExxonMobil. They wanted to make sure that we had that because the pump station, booster station, is a key part of this this new water line extension that's going to happen up here at the center of town, and also on L. Stevens Road, H. Putnam Road. And the key to that to this expansion was making the agreement for Masonic Home to connect. By Masonic Home connecting, they use approximately 40,000 gallons of water a day, and that's going to give our system the turnover that it needs. Plus, Southbridge has made some improvements with mixers in their tanks. That has improved the water. So all of that is good. One of the other things that I want to make sure I mention is that not only is the water going to go down Old Worcester Road, but it's going to go to Morton Station Road, but it's going to continue on down Old Worcester Road. And it's going to end up coming out onto Route 20. Now, this map here, just Rich, pass them over. This map here is a map that was just done by BETA, who is doing a model of our system, our current system. So this is the water that is currently operating in town. And it also shows the water line coming out of Southbridge. One of the key things I want you to note here, as you can mark this up yourself, is that the water line that's from, and I'll do it right here, from L. Stevens Road, which goes down to Old Worcester Road.
Does anyone want a yellow marker?
Okay. Just want to make sure I do this correctly. This Morton Station. Okay.
Excuse me, could you repeat that?
Sure. This portion of the line right here, which is probably, it's right at the 18, at the old.
On North Side Road?
This is at the corner of Carroll Hill Road, Old Worcester Road, heading east.
Oh.
This section of line, because remember, this whole system was put in to where our supply of water was coming from Oxford, and we have the pump station. This section right here, at this point in time, will not be activated, just for the simple reason is that Southbridge has agreed that, and we agreed with them, that they couldn't service water that far away from their system and say, as operators, that they would be responsible for the quality of it, because it's a dead end. The other part that I want you to be highlighted is that when you go from North Side Road down to where that yellow, right down to where that pink mark is, which is this portion right here, all right? The water line is already in there, all right? Yeah. Okay. And where's the other, there's other maps that were there. We got another set of maps. There's two copies. No, not that. Underneath there, Tom. Did Jane get that for me? Okay, she's running a few more. But the point I want to make here is that when they do the new extension, which is going to be all the way down Old Worcester Road, and it will come all the way out to Route 20, our intent in the beginning will be not to turn on this portion of the yellow highlighted road. Why? That line is a 12-inch line. This line does go and service. It would service the industrial park over at. Thank you, Jane. Would service the industrial park at that Prouty has, Mr. Prouty. The thing is, because it's a 12-inch line and it's 4,800 feet, there's like 36,000 gallons of water that pipe holds. So if we're going to turn it on, we need to move it. You don't move it, you're going to lose it. So if the demand is there, it'll get turned on. But the connection will be made, because this is, and I'll pass this out here. Ellen, that's for you, just pass that around. This here is the plan from Kleinfelder that actually shows what they're going to be doing starting this summer. And one of our key points that we're making with them is we want to make sure that the timing of this construction doesn't interfere with school buses, because we don't want to have happen what happened a couple of years ago, 3-4 years ago. So we want to make sure that what needs to happen up at the Charlton Center, which is Masonic Home Road, which is this section right here, which is, and again, if we're going to do anything piecemeal, this is the first piece that needs to get connected. Why? 40,000 gallons of water. Masonic Home. Right. That's we want to do that. The next one we want to get, which would be immediately, would be to go to Bay Path High School. So those construction projects should, if at all possible, happen during July, late June, early July, and early August. So we don't interfere with the school buses. We don't have to get out of the way. So that's key.
Will that be this June? Or
Yes. Again.
If they be fed off of Ulster Road?
No, would be Bay Path. What?
Will they get their feed off of Ulster Road?
No, because of the situation of some real low hits over there on Mugget Hill and Old Mugget Hill. That's why this line. In fact, I believe it only shows Mugget Hill here to where by Bay Path. There's going to be a double line there. There's going to be a line going up Old, and then there's going to be a line doing New. Okay, because they didn't want to do that, and then the DEP individual there, which ended up putting a split down, saying no, you need to put it there, and you will put it in, which was great. So that's going to get taken care of. So all of this here that we're seeing is and these are the two. This is Bay Path up here, and I'm 90% sure that this is going to be done. That's another line. This is Bay Path School here. This is here. These are the two schools down below. This is not in stone exactly how they're going to do this. To me, this is a little bit of a waste of pipe, but I think they're working on that, because they've got probably 2,500 feet of pipe that's in the driveway to where no one would ever have a use of it, and they may be better off spending that 2,500 feet extra over here and grabbing this housing development here. So, and also this also includes L. Stevens Road. So L. Stevens Road, there's some homes up there, so that gets counted there. And then this portion right here of Old Worcester Road, this is the part that I talked about, that the line's there, because when you look at Old Worcester Road, once you get past Bastille, you've got the lamp shop, then there are a couple of homes here, okay? And then you've got Sterrett Road, and then you've got the industrial park. So depending on what we're going to get for people of commitments, then we'll be able to turn it on. And also, depending on once we get the system running, because Southbridge still needs to put one more mixer in their tank. We put one mixer in, made a huge difference. We had no blow-offs last summer. That's incredible. No, zero. So if they put the other mixer in, which should make a huge difference. So, this is a great stretch here of water that's in current business, but the use of a lot of this land here is in wetlands. So that's happening there. The other, if I can, I'll point this out, is the other portion of water line that's going to happen, and I say it's going to happen. I got my fingers crossed on that, and I hope it happens for those people up there, up by the dump there, is No. This is up here at Berry Corner. So in other words, here's what you need to remember this: from 169 down to Snake Hill Road. All right, because actually our water line goes all the way right into Southbridge, This is the new water line that was just put in from Southbridge up to here, which is I believe it's a 16-inch water line. That water line will be a gravity line that's going to get fed up to the pump station, that the pump station then is going to boost. Between the pump station and here, currently we have 0 customers. After the water line, after the pump station is put in, we will still have 0 customers because that's a transmission line, and it's going to run at about 170 to 180 psi, and it's just too dangerous to tap that. So currently we have no customers there, and more than likely in the future there doesn't look like there are going to be any customers. But what has been committed to by Water and Sewer right now is this agreement with Southbridge and with Casella and with the state of Massachusetts to go and do this water line here. Southbridge is participating with $5 million, Casella $4 million, and the $6 million grant that we had has been reduced by $1 million to do this.
So they would be going up Berry Corner Road.
Up Berry Corner Road.
Yeah.
Is that a loop up 10 Schoolhouse Road? that
There
you
is,
drawn?
well, the only loop here is the one that's in this Ellie Pond. All of these are dead ends. Southbridge has agreed to be responsible for any water blow-offs for those dead ends. Okay, so I believe out of the 87 homes there, I think they have a commitment of somewhere in the vicinity of 60, which is, the one individual who did a lot of the heavy lifting there. It was incredible. He was able to pull all that together and also get the sign-offs to where people can come on their property.
So they would go up H-Foot Road to hit Eleanor Lane, right?
They're going to go up Berry Corner Road. Yes, I
Yeah.
believe H-Foot is involved there. Yes,
Correct.
I'm not really
Yeah.
keen on all those roads up there, but they're planning on a pretty extensive system. The good news is that if we wanted to, and we wanted to get out to Route 20 and backdoor some of these 2 large parcels here,
Yep.
then it would make it so that you'd have some redundancy here, so that water was coming this way and there was a problem, then you could bring it in this way. Okay, and also it'd be a way of looping the system. So that would be good. And of course, also the new customer that's just coming online, which is going to be, I think this is the, no, this is
Treehouse.
the Treehouse. I think Treehouse is right in here. So Treehouse is going to be good for somewhere around 10,000 gallons of water a day and growing. So that will also help with the flow. Okay, so that's good. And
Did they go past 10 Schoolhouse up Berry Corner Road?
I think so.
when you say yes, it's going past, and actually that's going to go right into Southbridge and go up onto Commercial Drive. It'll go into Commercial Drive and then dead end there. Okay. I can't help myself. I won't bore you with the way that I thought they should go. Okay, but anyways, I thought they should go downhill rather than uphill, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't bore you with it.
And the pump station on.
No one else felt the same way, and we wouldn't, they wouldn't touch our pump station. But anyways, so, all this is, it's amazing how this has come together. This is probably 3 or 4 miles of road here. This is 6 miles here. So it's close to 10 miles of water construction. With these new pipes, people are going to be helped out here, especially the ones up here.
Yes.
Even though both of these situations, it's not the fault of the homeowners or the property owners.
Would Berry Corner Road be done over the next year or so, do you think?
They're supposed to start on it as soon as possible.
Okay.
Okay, but my reservation is Casella going to be able to come up with $4 million? Because that's what needs to happen. Especially if they're going to be out of business or out of space, not out of business, out of space in 18 months. So then are they going to get an expansion in Southbridge? So
probably, not probably, June of this year, their goal is to try to get the water at least to Bay Path.
Well, before
Yeah.
August
Right.
22nd, 25th, somewhere around there.
And then
Yeah.
they would do Old Worcester Road probably the following year.
Well, it depends. Now, there's probably, as far as this project goes here,
Yeah.
there's probably only a handful of contractors who have the ability to do this work.
Right.
And what I mean the ability is they have the machinery,
Yep.
and the manpower.
And the knowledge.
And, right. So, it's possible they could come in here with 3 crews. All right, and then it would be, no matter what happens, we have to be careful with our inspection.
Yep.
Because that's the only flaw. If there are flaws in construction, it's inspection.
Right.
All the products are great, all the design is good. Okay, the problem is when it gets poured in, was it put in properly? And you also want to make sure that the products that they were supposed to use, that they're using, and it gets backfilled and identified properly, so that later on, A, you can find it, and B, is it's going to work correctly. So that's so important as far as that part. Now with what's happening here in this
Yep.
up here at the Casella area, is Southbridge will be putting the infrastructure in. Well, Southbridge will be overseeing the infrastructure. We as well, and then once it's up and running, then they will turn it over to us. That's the plan on that. And like I said, I think from a commercial industrial point of view, there's a possibility for a back door to get this out onto 20. Whether, I don't know what's happening to gas people there.
I've heard a word for a long time on that, and I think it's dead because,
Okay.
or at least in limbo, because I was talking with Dan Prouty, and he considers the property development to be on his back burner right now. And I
Right.
think he'd have it on the front burner if those people wanted to move forward.
Okay.
On the 20 site on the south side near the Sturbridge line.
Yes.
Yes, so the fact that Dan told me that that property is on his back burner, to me, I interpret as, if the project isn't dead, it's at least been frozen. I had heard earlier in 2016 that that state superior court case that ruled that utility companies cannot use their fee increases for that type of capital project was
Okay.
hurting it, even though some people felt it wasn't. But there is a direct link on the funding for that type of thing. So I
Right,
think
right.
it's either died or gone into limbo over funding.
Okay, I do want to let you know, this water project was completed and turned on probably almost a year ago. But up here at I call it at the village, where the Village Racquetball Club
Yes.
used to be, that condo project up there.
They just got water.
They just got water, and we worked with the state, we worked with the homeowners up there. Right now, the 8-inch line goes all the way, it used to only go to the service center at the old, that's my age,
Mass
call
Pike.
it Joe's.
Yeah.
But to the service area, I think it's called 6W.
Yeah.
No, 5 East. This is 5 East, the other one's 6W, because this is one goes east. So at 5 East, it stops at 8-inch, and then it was 4-inch, and from there it went to the state police barracks. Well, the owner of the Juniper Hill, he had water issues. He extended the 8-inch to Juniper Hill, then went into Juniper Hill. So the 8-inch goes to Juniper Hill, there's fire hydrant up in the street. The state came to us and said, look, we want to work with these people, and they played the we're poor card, and said, we've got funds, we don't have a whole bunch of funds, because really what we should have done is we should have said 8-inch. But when we looked at it, we said, look, this is the end of the road, there's nothing hereafter. So we said, fine. The engineers proved that the 4-inch was plenty of water to service these 32 units. So we agreed to allow that 4-inch. And what we did say to ourselves, try to be responsible here, is we made them extend that out to, it's a subdivision road, but the subdivision hasn't been accepted yet. This is, if you're going to pull in just at the racquetball club,
Yeah.
all right, that is a road that reads up there. It's a private road.
You mean what they just provided the water?
Yes.
Yeah, the condo development.
Correct.
Sure.
But we made it, and the condo people agreed to it and says, look, the church across the street needs water. You're going to allow them to come onto your property, that private road, because we had them bring it out there and tee it. So,
Correct, okay.
so again, trying to think about 10, 20 years from now is, again, if it was if the church, fine. If it's a huge project, Because if Dan or the abutting property, if it's huge, then usually they will have the funds to go and take that 8-inch, extend it down, and then bring it into their property. Because really, again, for a large project, it's a considerable amount of money, but it certainly has the value of whether the project is going to work or not work by having water, and water's really not that far away for that consideration. So we took all things into hand and said, look, this is the smartest thing to get this thing done for these people, and they now have no water problems there.
Yeah,
Is
the
that
condo
public water?
project ended up tying into their old pump house.
Yes,
The
I
water
believe they
service.
did. I believe
Yeah.
that's how they're distributing the water, and we said, look, it's private,
Yeah.
you're all set, but and the thing is, I guess you would really call them a consecutive water system is what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Gene's
you're-
over there, yeah, we know about that. We know about that.
Yeah,
You
you're
know,
right.
so, yeah,
That term sounded real familiar.
yeah. Now, do you have to do anything special, Gene?
No, we're
In fact, I
We're
think
in
what,
town water and
no, I'm trying to think of her name at the DEP. She put a foot down and says no, because Southwood wanted to make it consecutive, they said, no, you can't.
Mariel.
Mariel Stowe, yeah, Mariel was, yeah, she said, fine, go ahead, do it, and then after it was done, say, no, I changed my mind, we're not gonna do that now. And the thing is, you're responsible right up to the tap. And you have no problem with your plastic lines? No. Now, if we come, and again, this is one of the things that's in deep consideration right now with water and sewer, and we're waiting for an engineering report of whether or not we're gonna become a consecutive water supply. What that means is, when the water gets to the pump house, we have a meter, then we become, we have all our own rules, and we become the agency that bills people. So, it's a big step. The thing
Yeah.
is, we better make sure we don't make a mistake, because we don't want to become a consecutive water supplier and then have people's bills go up.
Right.
That'd be a mistake. So,
Did
but
you
we do
say-
want to have the freedom of saying yes, no,
Yeah.
copper, plastic.
On 169, you said that's a 16-inch pipe down to where the pump station is?
From the Southbridge line,
Yep.
okay, that construction that they did there was they installed a 16-inch line.
16-inch line.
Right, and that's because, again, you want that big source. So what they said is that with the pump station and the pump, putting in the proper pumps, even though from Snake Hill Road out to Route 20, that's only a 10-inch line, they feel with that pump station, they easily do 500,000 gallons, possibly up to 750,000 gallons.
Okay.
So,
Can I segue for a few minutes into Charlie Crossing?
go to wherever you want to go. Also, I just want, now, I know the Griffin Road people came to us, and that's still hanging out there. Okay, that's all I need to say about that.
Okay, sounds good, thank you. If I can spend a few minutes to get us going on Charlie Crossing, one for each of you, and the board has this. This is just a very nice visioning workshop report from the January visioning workshop that Jane Armington completed last week for everybody that we're distributing. And I know that both Tom and Rich can be very articulate and knowledgeable about interest, pros, cons up there as property owners and participants, but I just wanted to throw one thing out there that I think little things go a long way. And prior to the workshop, I had talked to Steve down at your department, and it was very nice. What he provided us was a couple of site concept plans on the current situation, but they were only for some of the parcels, and some of it was lines that come up from 20 behind the property.
Yes, those are how those people
Yeah,
get those.
so what came up at the visioning workshop, and we've talked about since a few times, is there any way that your department could give us, if it exists, and if not, we could connect Matt Franzen from the Regional Planning Agency, who's the GIS guy, and it's very simple and not time consuming, but a map like this of what exists right now in there, parcel by parcel like that, and that would help us get a much better baby step handle on what we're going to try to achieve in Charlie Crossing. Because Steve said to me he really didn't have an overall map. He just had a couple of these pieces from files that showed a couple of the lines going in and out, but it's not a map. It's just a couple of sketches on a couple of pieces of paper.
Most of the map that I handed out here, this one here, this is by Beta. this was probably 4 or 5 years ago. I actually sat with Matt Franz for 3 days, and we went, and he worked as far as siting the water lines. Now, there, relative to Charlie Crossing, the Hoyle and Tanner was also hired by Water and Sewer, and this was to either correct or verify the as-bills for the current water line in Charlton. And also, I believe Steve has it, I have it as well. There's a blow-up of the intersection of Route 20 and, is that H. Putnam?
Okay, spot.
H. Putnam Road.
Yeah.
There is a, I believe it's an 8-inch stub that comes up H. Putnam Road, and it almost reaches the driveway into where Howlett's is.
Okay.
So that exists there. So that's the only water line that I know that's there.
What he gave us and what was said at the visioning, and Rich, correct me if I'm wrong, but a couple of the existing buildings on the properties and businesses on the north side of Trolley Crossing had, whether it's water or sewage, because we're looking at both, had some type of a line coming up from the behind, north on Route 20, up the back of their property
All right,
and into it.
let me explain exactly what happened there. All right, this is 20, this is 31, this is Trolley Crossing. The original line that was here, Hoyle Tanner did the as-bills. There was, and when the line was put in 20, there were laterals that were given off to the properties.
Right.
Savers Bank had a lateral. I believe Webster First had a lateral. I believe the former market had a lateral. For Miniature Tool and for the Cedar Building, there were no laterals. The water line main is on the north side of Route 20. So what happened was they came to us and in conjunction with Southbridge said, look, we need water here because we abut the road to where the water is. He said, fine, go get at it. All right, so both of these property owners contracted the same company. They went and burrowed underneath Route 20, brought a 2-inch copper line to this one and a 2-inch copper line to the Cedar Building. Now the Cedar Building at one time, because when Oliver originally owned this, he owned all these buildings here. This was his main water supply, and he supplied the water for all these other buildings. And then what happened is with responsibility and also issues with water and more requirements for testing. Also, here is the Cedar Building right now. This is Tully's, this is the Cedar Building. So it was these two that brought in the 2-inch copper lines. So in some discussions with Rich and Tom is Charlie Crossing right now is if you're going to come down here with a water line, that water line's only going to service one side of the street because the other side is already being serviced by the Route 20 side. So, and also right now, the water, I believe, comes up Masonic Home, and I think it may go as far as where McClure's building used to be, and that's stubbed off there. So we've got a stub here, all right, and then you got a stub here. So the question becomes is, all right, this site here has sewer. They have a pressure line, I believe it's a 2-inch force main that comes from this corner of the building here, goes out there, and then goes this way. And I believe they also have sewer laterals off the 20. Sewer is in Masonic Home Road. And also I believe this property right here already has a dry line that's already set to be hooked up. And which is almost in the easement of the street, which easily could be used by abutting properties.
Sewer?
For sewer, yes. Yeah, I'm sorry if I said water, but for sewer. It would make sense. So, I guess, now, at one time, the church wanted to connect the water, but the thing is the rule was no dead ends, so it meant that the water line would have to go like this and like this and like this. So when they weighed out the cost of the water line and the cost of putting in the cistern and the pump system, which I think cost $250,000, if not more, they ended up going that route. But I'm sure, and I know and Rich will agree with this, that the church would love to get public
The
water.
church, we would love to have public water because we drilled the well back, 15 years ago. We built the church, and the water volume is pretty low. In fact, at one time, they had no water. They had to wait till it filled before they could even take a shower. And I know Father Rob's told me a couple of times. We said, if we ever get public water, that'd be terrific. But as Rob said, the closest I think we have, Rob, actually to St. Joseph's, it might be the line that's going to end at. Has it already ended at Masonic?
Here's where it's going to end. Well, here's what it's going to come up Route 31, go past the market, and then it'll get to the first driveway, and then go in here.
Okay.
All right, but also is we want them to go down to the police station.
Yeah, because they have very bad water.
Right. So that would be, I believe both these lines are calling for an 8-inch. I believe. Oh well, actually, it's everything up in Charlton Center is 12. If we had to do it over again, we would have went with 12 because it just holds so much water that sits there. So I believe it's a 12 that's going to continue it up here, and then they may reduce it down. I don't know if they would reduce it down, but the last thing they'd want to do is come down and then stop.
Right.
They'd have to come down and make the full connection.
Exactly.
And one of the policies of highway, and which has worked out great for the town of Charlton, is if you're going to dig up the road, then you've got to do curb-to-curb paving. So the actual construction of just of that alone is equal to the cost of putting the water line in. So it doubles the cost. Now, one of the other things, and I know Southbridge doesn't like it, but they do it. In some cases, they do what they call cross-country connections. So a cross-country connection would be as if you extend the water up here to the Howlett property and then somehow backdoor things like this, or if in fact the water supplier would allow, for instance, the Cedar Building and Miniature Tool have a 2-inch line, which is overkill.
Right, which they got now.
Well, right now, before they used to have an artesian well with a 1-inch line.
Right.
Okay, but now they have public water with a 2-inch line with I think about 75 or 80 pounds of pressure.
Yes.
All right, so the last thing they want to do, but depends on the circumstances, is allow this property owner to extend water across the street, allow this property owner to extend the water down here.
But from an engineering point of view, it's feasible.
And if it's feasible, as long as you get permission.
Right.
Right. Now, I know in my particular case over on Route 20, where the family has the 159 Worcester Road, we're getting ready to start to because we already put the foundation. We're getting ready to add on to that. I asked Southbridge about do I need to come to Southbridge and then do another lateral for that building? They said no. You have one lot. All right, you're going to get one lateral. The water will go into your property, go into your building. We put the backflow preventer, and then we put the meter. Okay, it's the meter, then the backflow preventer, and from there on, do what you want to do. Right. That's what they said. Whatever you want to do. So based on that, then I'm going to come out of one building, and then go into the other building. So and that's how it's going to get service. Now, if I needed fire protection, different ballgame. Right. Then you've got to go with, they want 6-inch for fire protection, and you can't take your public water out of your fire protection line. So what you do is you bring in an 8-inch, then you tap the 8 down to 6 for the fire protection, and you have your 2-inch for your potable water. So
right now in summary at Trolley Crossing, common sense would say you tap off of one or both of these buildings a 2-inch line. You feed this property and you feed this property. It's a 2-inch line, sufficient, plenty of water for supply. Not enough for fire suppression. As Rob said, you need an 8-inch.
6-inch.
Eventually going down because you need actually a 6 in total. So in these cases, that 2-inch would not be sufficient. You'd be looking at cisterns and so forth. Rob had an actually interesting concept which he kind of touched on a second ago, and this is, I thought it was really positive from the standpoint of what we're trying to do here. As we know, this is all village district, all this purple, okay? And what we're trying to do here is kick something off here. I mean, we've done it. The first step of zoning it village district is obviously huge, okay? And what has to happen now is, okay, let's get out there. We need investors that come in and actually do something. okay? And as we know, the village district concept, it's all about walkable community. Alan's working on a whole grant for additional and improved sidewalks, which is fabulous. And key components of a village district, you have to have food, restaurants, cafes, you have to have housing, you need cluster housing, you need condos, etc. I mean, you want this, the concept I have and we have here on Charlie Crossing is it's very forward thinking, yet I think the time to get going is right now, and it's really to create a village within the village, okay? We don't have that now. And potentially we could have people living up here or thereabouts. And Rob's concept about the water, I thought was kind of interesting. Rob, you maybe want to touch on that, bringing that line back here, which could actually feed other
Yeah.
parts of this village.
With the blessing of, again, if Southbridge is still our supplier, they would have to agree to it. And with the water and sewer, he said if you were to extend this line to this point here, and then as long as you had enough flow and users, come in on the backside of Howlett's, and then feed these two properties and then go across here.
At the same time, you can feed as we're coming through.
Yeah,
you
St.
have access
Joseph's
to
could be-
St. Joseph's.
Yeah, as far as just
Okay.
the potable water.
And potentially, we've got all of this. I can picture this in this field eventually becoming, built out, whatever. Could be anything, condos, etc. So I
Right.
mean, having a line in that area, and obviously from a cost standpoint, as you said, it's significantly less than going down the road.
Because to look at this from a purely engineering point of view and a water operator point of view, they'd say, look, the logical thing is you're going to have a water line already to here. So what's preventing you from going from here to here? And probably so. The thing is that all of this property here is already serviced. It's going to be serviced by public water. So all of this frontage here is going to be just thrown away. So you got Mr. Plant here, who would certainly be definitely a benefit factor of that. Maybe Billy, who's a parishioner, would allow for an easement to go in the back doors of the church, and then these properties would be attached.
But if there's an 8-inch tapping coming off of Route 20 going up a little ways into...
Yes, right here.
Right.
Yeah.
That would make Howlett's property so much more marketable because now you could put a large building in there with a sprinkler system.
Well, correct.
Where now he's got to try to sell that property, for smaller buildings.
Oh, no, right. I would, if I may, Rich, I would say it's one of the. If I was promoting this as a property owner here, and I was trying, you've got a perfect road here, which doesn't need to be reground and repaved. All of these properties here are already serviced with public water, except for this one. All right, and this property owner is in agreement that the property owners of here would allow them to come through. I would say is that a presentation to me, which would make sense, is extend this water line up to here, and then with either within the easement or the road, or just off the easement or road,
Right.
keep it all to one side so you're not in the road.
Correct.
So you don't have to double the cost of the project because of the road, because all of these people already have water.
Yeah.
And so, and even if you needed to put a lateral, they did it up at Charlton Center, on that little section we did for the school. You burrow under the road
Right.
with what do they call it, a mouse or something?
Missile.
Yeah. So that just came to me, Rich, as far as keeping everything to this side.
Yeah.
And
No,
then
Kurt actually mentioned that to me also when I sat
okay.
with him.
Okay.
That, if I can comment, that's what we do. When I was responsible for bringing Charlie Crossing up to standard, so that we had a legitimate street. It was only a right-of-way
Wow.
Until 2005, and put the sidewalk in. And I am proud that that road is still a great
Oh, it's going to
So
change.
good.
passable road. We put a sewer line in leading up to what is now Rich's property. At
That's
that
on
time,
this side right here.
we owned the south side and the north side. Rich bought the north side, and at the time he bought it, we decided, let's put in a lateral up to his property. We made an agreement, if it comes someday, we'll tunnel under, burrow under, and get an easement. that, to my knowledge, that dry line is on private property.
Yeah, it's very close to the easement. Again, I'm not a surveyor, but
Yeah,
again,
but
it's
we
very close.
designed it to not
Yeah.
be, so what you're suggesting about the water being outside of town-owned,
Yeah, but,
or not?
right, the town would obviously have to
Or
have
would
an
you want it
easement.
in?
They'd have to have an easement.
okay.
Right, there would have to be a
Or,
permanent easement involved.
I'm guessing 30 feet from center line might still be outside of the sidewalk, because the
Okay.
one sidewalk
That's
is
right,
on
the sidewalk is on the south side.
is on the south side.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But what would end up happening is you would have to go out into the road here and have that water line come down the,
Right.
and it already goes a good 80, 90 feet up Sonnet
Close.
Home Road.
Yeah.
If I heard you right, a proposal like that might be something feasible or acceptable to be heard.
I'm only one person
Yeah.
on the commission. But I think my point of view is has a lot of common sense to it. And the thing is it's not hurting anybody because no one's going to be deprived. Because
I can also say that
all
I've
these-
worked in communities that have done it that way. I've seen
Okay.
it before.
yeah, yeah. And also respecting the highway department's policy. Again, as far as highway goes, I can't speak for the superintendent there, but you'd have to run that by him as well.
Mhm.
But again, it all seems to make sense.
Right.
Because, like I said, the other thing is to come down with Route 31, and even though, because you got one property owner here, you could almost do the same thing and say, look, we're not going on this side of the road, because they already have water. You know, unless someday they were going to subdivide, the only portion they would subdivide is down here, or at least subdivide any further.
Sure.
I can picture this big piece in development. I think that's like 25 acres, I believe.
It's a beautiful
You know
spot,
what I mean?
yeah.
So to me, they're going to need water and sewer someday.
Well,
So
and-
I'm trying to think big picture, and I'm sure you guys do the same thing. I mean, you want to look out, 10, 20 plus years and say, okay, let's just imagine this is filled in, and it's the way we're thinking. What if we started from scratch? How would we lay out the water and sewer system? To me, that's the way to approach it.
The nice thing is you've got stubs coming off of Route 20, so that's.
No, this whole side's taken, for the most part, this side, and again, through these people's investments,
Yeah.
they're already serviced.
I mean, yeah, but even like for Howlett, you've already got a stub coming there, for water.
Yes, Howlett, actually, right, they could almost just
Yeah.
go across the intersection, it's right there.
If you're selling the Howlett property, as you said before, they already have sewer, and essentially you can say they have water because it's right there.
Water's
So-
there, yeah.
So I think they have it already. I mean, and we're trying on this end, myself and Tom and Jay Athanas, we're trying to kick things off because we think we can be a catalyst to really go in the direction of making this end of the village become a real village. But again, like I told Alan and the board prior to this, infrastructure is huge. I mean, it's huge. Now, let me ask a question. I mean, I just went to the town meeting a couple of nights ago, and I know that obviously, like any other town, we're always tight on the budget. But again, big picture thinking. Imagine this is all built out someday, and you have all these owners and tenants and so forth. Is this the type of thing that a town would look at, just in total, and say, gee, we're willing to make an investment on improving water and sewer infrastructure, because you know something? From a return on investment standpoint, I mean, our real estate taxes are going to be XYZ over the next, number of years.
I guess a question to Rob in that direction of what would be the first baby step to try to move that solution forward? Would it be they brainstorm with your full commission, or getting into a process with them, or what?
Exactly, is come together with a plan and a request, and a plan that could be passed on to the Southbridge DPW director as far as the concept goes. That would be the best way. And I'm not saying go out and spend $1 gazillion, but something that again is with GIS and that you can just you know, darken in where the line would go.
Very conceptual, basically.
Right, exactly,
Preliminary.
exactly, right,
Yeah,
right. I
yeah.
think that's the way to do it.
If Charlton takes over running the water system,
Yes,
does that mean that we're dealing directly with the Charlton
Correct.
board?
Correct,
So in other
yes.
words, should we be hanging in to the, do you expect that to happen? And if so, should we just
No.
make it simple instead of starting to get into any kind of discussion with Southbridge?
the people in Southbridge are very reasonable. We just worked out an arrangement for St. Mary's Way, which is, I think, this is like the fourth time.
Yeah.
All right, and it's not because of anyone's fault. It's just because there was a change of I guess directors in Southbridge, and also a change of Water Sewer Commission. But we ended up doing St. Mary's Way, which is it's now a dead end. Okay, and we also did it in 4-inch line, not 8-inch, which is which again was things that Southbridge was pretty much set in concrete. But after they realized the circumstances, again, they were very reasonable. So I wouldn't necessarily be afraid of going to Southbridge, but I know
I don't want to be redundant,
right.
that's all.
No, and I know our commission, we need to make a decision on this consecutive water system here fairly soon. We're waiting for some engineering information and also some financial information to make that decision.
You know, the nice thing about you coming in tonight, showing us that, you know, you have plans to come up Berry Corner Road. There's those subdivisions that are up there that are questionable with their water source. It's gonna make them more sellable. Plus the people that live up there already will be happy. And the school system, by getting the water through there, and Old Worcester Road, who's got issues now with water. You know, I think the sewer department, along with ExxonMobil, is doing a great job of cleaning it up. And
You know, we just need to get it done. And
Yeah.
I will say is that, I know, as far as the Casella Southbridge thing, I know Robin Craver worked hard on that, and ended up bringing that to the commission. You know, there are people who are definitely going to get relief there.
Yeah.
But again, it's a 4-piece puzzle, and I think there's one piece that, from my opinion, is still a little shaky, but hopefully it's all going to come together. And again, the Charlton, those Charlton residents who've taken something that they had no control of,
correct.
you know, they're certainly going to be helped out.
Good
But
ones.
they're going to have a water bill now.
Yeah. But, you know, you still gotta pump it, you still gotta maintain it, you're gonna put filters in.
Right.
This way here, it's the water bill instead.
Right. I need to say this, you know, we got a town of 43 square miles, is that what it is? Something like that. We've got some absolutely beautiful property, there's many homes and residents out there, people have got great water with no problems. And granted, we've been in the newspaper quite a bit as far as water this, water that, for what was it, 4-1 dioxide, and then, you know, Mobile Exxon, which has been going on, it's been over 30 years. And all of these things are getting taken care of. Again, this is a great place to live, a great property, and there is a great artesian water well here. Again, there are some areas, like in every town, whether it's a portion of our neighboring towns, you know, we all have this arsenic issue because it runs from New Hampshire all the way down through Connecticut into the ocean. So you know, we're not by ourselves. All right. That's it.
I think we'd like to.
I just got the tap.
Tap
out.
Thank you so much. I gave the first introductory. I gave the first one, then Alan gave the second.
Yeah.
Tag team.
Yeah.
This was fantastic.
Tack it up.
Very helpful.
Right.
It's gonna help us
Thanks,
move
Rob, you do a
forward.
fantastic job.
I don't know about fantastic job.
It is.
You've been super key
Yeah.
to this town for years in
Yeah,
water and
well,
sewer, believe me.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Anything else, people?
Should do it.
Should do it.
Great.
Rossi's bedtime now, 8 o'clock.
I've got one of these.
Thanks again. Oh, keep it. No, that's
Well, I've got
good.
one already, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Everybody have a good
All right, guys and girls. Okay. Go Celtics.
Goes in out.
Go Celtics. What do you think, huh? Well, I'm sure Cleveland's here.
I know, it's gonna be a rough night, but
4-1?
you never know. Miracles can
No,
happen.
exactly.
Do we have any
Celtics are
growth
gonna be on-
management issues you want to
Two.
go over?
Two.
All right, real quick.
I need about
Let's see,
3 minutes on the first one and 5 on the second one.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you again. Jane, one for you. And, just to pick up what we were covering at the last meeting, but we were missing, we wanted to have at least 4 members. We've talked about it, and I've told, thank you, about shifting the management for the engineering billing that we've been frustrated with certain people on getting reimbursed to what most planning boards in Massachusetts at this point have done of setting up escrow accounts. So this was what we started to look at the last meeting briefly. I asked Mike Andre to put together a dollar amount for how we would do it. And actually, I've checked with some other communities, and this is very, very moderate. A lot of communities ask for more up front, but I think this will work for us. What it would be is for new projects, when they come in, for instance, when the Barrigo project, and I've already talked to them about it, and they said that everywhere else they do it, they expected to do it here the same thing. When they submit next week, one of the application payments will be a $2,000 check that will be a escrow payment to set up an escrow account for their engineering review. And as it gets depleted, they would renew it. Jane and I keep spreadsheets on many things that manage pretty well, from massive spreadsheet on the 2-year and annual expirations that we go to people and say it's time to reapprove you and extend you, to the various bonds, from disassembly bonds and stuff. So it's really easy for us to build, as projects come on board from the beginning, an escrow spreadsheet, and we just manage it. So again, when I was meeting with Barrigo the other day, they said, well, we expected an escrow anyway. If you had told us you didn't do it, that's unusual for us. So what Michael put together here is recommendation from his experience with being your consultant of what the escrow should be up front when they apply. So for a preliminary plan, for a subdivision, they would pay $1,000 up front, and we would draw down as needed. Anything left over goes back to them. For a definitive plan, it would be $2,000 plus $100 per lot for a subdivision bigger than 10 lots. So for instance, we're not doing it for the one that came in tonight because they're already in the pipeline. We're working with them. But if someone came in brand new from scratch, if it was as small as that one, it would only be $2,000. But if it was something the size of the Gunter one, there'd be a per lot payment for the escrow too. And then for site plan approval, $2,000, which would be like the solar projects, the other projects. We've done this before. You just haven't adopted it to do it for everybody. We did it with Treehouse. We did it with the Conover project, and those guys paid like $5,000, $10,000 up front because that was massive. And for somebody massive, we'd say to them, look, $1,000 is going to last 2 weeks for review. So, when you get something big like that. But again, I can't emphasize enough how we're one of the few left that is doing it. Michael said none of the planning board clients in Central Mass for Graves, and they have a lot of planning boards they work for, are not doing escrow. We're the last one for Graves. I think it will avoid that problem. In the industry, they expect it these days, and I think it's worth setting up for new projects. Anything in the pipeline already, we can continue the way we are and phase them out over time. So it's just a policy, it's not a regulation, it's how you manage it and what you decide to do with it.
Do we make a motion on that?
You would make a motion in terms of a policy. You can change it any time in the future you want. You can rescind and go back to the old way. You can tweak this or leave it alone. Sure.
After Alan's discussion, do I have a motion for a peer review deposit fees?
I'd make a motion to use the figures set out by Graves' letter.
Second.
We can review it at any time.
Anytime. It's just your own work. It's an operational policy. You can change it however you want, from meeting to meeting, from week to week.
It makes it easier on them too, that then there's no last minute bills back and forth. It's
And you're not
upfront.
spending time chasing people.
Exactly. And again, it doesn't affect A&Rs at all. Reduced frontage special permits, 0, because we don't do peer review on that. For common driveway, we occasionally do a peer review if it's steep, and it's so small I wouldn't do it. We'd get a bill for a couple $100. That we don't work out. This is really for professional development projects.
So we have a motion.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The second one under growth management, I want to spend about 5 minutes, is one item to follow up from town meeting, if we can spend a few minutes. The final warrant article on the marijuana. If you weren't at town meeting, the way it went is, I believe the vote was 144 to 47. It was the best way I can use my own words of what Town Council Jim Cosgrove said, it was more of a philosophical statement and a request by the supporters asking the selectmen to not have recreational marijuana. It was not regulatory. It was asking the selectmen to go in that direction. Whether you were there or not, there was a lot of discussion. I think people at times explained that while that may have been the vote last night, 144 to 47, in the statewide ballot, the town actually supported the initiative by 300 more than the negatives. Some people made remarks about, well, I feel town meeting is the venue versus ballot. That was just a statewide thing, not just for Charlton. But that's nothing of our involvement. The reason I bring it up tonight is I knew it would eventually head in this direction in some manner, and I want to pass out an email and suggest a response. I received the lady, Christian Costigian, in town. She's emailed me and Robin Craver a few times, and I've suggested she could call me if she'd like. She just hasn't yet. I'm sure we'll have a conversation. But asking question about, well, what's the planning board going to do zoning regarding all of that? And if I can give you a minute to read her email, and then I'd like to suggest a response. It's very brief, so it won't take long to read it once it goes around. I can say that basically when you're reading it, what she's basically boiling down is saying, so what is the planning board going to do or not do about zoning related to recreational marijuana? But she's just putting it in her own words. And to refresh your memory of what your position is at the moment, because we've discussed this, you know that the state is in flux. There's an 18-month period that we're in the early phase of that the state is putting together a cannabis control commission. There's bills all over Beacon Hill that may or may not change things. There are a handful of Central Mass communities that have reacted very quickly in terms of moratoriums or looking to prohibit it. I've given you information before, and I've got a few things to hand out tonight. The question before, in the planning board's direction, what I'd like to do in terms of, and again, I'll follow, you're telling me what to do as your staffer, but I'm throwing some ideas out. I think a response that I should send to her, at part of the response to her email, is that the board, as a planning board, doesn't look at the question of should we have it in town or not. The way it works with this state initiative, and I have a handout from Koppelman and Page, the municipal advisory law firm that has been nice enough statewide to put together some information. The only way to ban it, it's not through a zoning bylaw. That's not something someone should be bringing to you and saying, could we have a zoning bylaw that bans recreational marijuana? Koppelman and Page has made it very clear, and I have a handout to give you in a minute, that states that you would have to have a ballot vote in election, not a town meeting, not to change zoning, not a town meeting on any other regulation. So that's not our world. The question that people have the right to ask the planning board is, if recreational marijuana is allowed in a community, not banned by ballot initiative, then how's our zoning to handle it? Is it sufficient? And they make it very clear in their writing that that's what you're looking at, and that's what we've discussed in the past. The Mass Municipal Association, in last month's monthly newsletter, had an article on that, and I want to read 2 quotes. Local officials are urged to examine their zoning bylaws to ensure that any commercial marijuana activity is conducted in a manner acceptable to the city or town. So you're looking at what is the proper permitting to make sure it's designed properly for the site, like you do with other site plans. Second quote in that article, communities may regulate the time, place, and manner of commercial marijuana operation through their bylaws and ordinances, but such regulations may not be, quote-unquote, legally, and I'm adding the word legally, unreasonably impractical. That's a legal term under zoning in Massachusetts. Essentially, this means that the rules cannot be so restrictive as to interfere with the viability of the business. What that means is site plan review. They even, when you talk about this type of thing on zoning, prefer to advise communities not to go discretionary special permit. So you've looked at this before. You've looked at our zoning in the past year, and our zoning, and Kurt Meskis will concur as the zoning enforcement officer, our zoning would have the retail marijuana come under retail sales in our zoning bylaw. That means that approximately 80% of the land mass in town that's residential is not allowed. It means that in the commercial zone, it's allowed via site plan review, and in the industrial zone, it's allowed similar to the Pucci Gymnastics special permit, because in industrial zones, we have a case-by-case special permit to make sure that commercial jives correctly with industrial as the main activity in an industrial zone. So whether people like it or not, our opinion has been, and I feel very strongly as your staffer, that our zoning is sufficient. If people have an individual issue, pro or con, either direction, on recreational marijuana, that's not for the planning board. The planning board's answer is, if it's allowed in the community, is our zoning in good shape? And your zoning is in best shape as it can be. Now, other people may say, okay, why don't we do a moratorium? Ban it for a year or two. First of all, the time frame for a moratorium, even if you needed it, jives with the time frame right now that the state isn't allowing anything anyway, that 18-year. You will not be able to go for a moratorium time period beyond that ending next year. So these communities are going for moratoriums. There's no need to anyway, but that's their issue. Secondly, what is legally a zoning moratorium? And people don't understand sometimes. A lot of people misunderstand and think a zoning moratorium is a 1 to 2 year timeout approved by the Attorney General to stop something. It's not what it is. Legally in Massachusetts, a zoning moratorium is a request from a community and its planning board for a 1 to 2 year suspension, like I described, by the AG, because you have a severe deficiency in your zoning bylaw and you need a legal timeout to figure out how to rewrite that zoning bylaw. I'll give you a personal example. When I got out of grad school back in the old days, in the 80s, early 80s, I got hired as town planner in Millbury, and in the interview they said, we're in the middle of a zoning moratorium. And I was fascinated because they are rare, or at least they were rarer back in those days. And I said, what's going on? And they said, we're overwhelmed right now. This was around 1984 or so. We've got hundreds of condo units being proposed to come in, and our zoning bylaw is a massive loophole. We basically didn't go for building permit. We don't have site plan review, we don't have special permit, we don't have any requirements of lot size performance standards the way you do in your site plan. So we petitioned the state last year for a 24-month zoning moratorium while we set up a study process through the planning board, go to town meeting with a significant requirement. And during that 24 months, by the end of it, they went to town meeting and set up their site plan review and special permit. So they needed that time out because they had hundreds of units being proposed, and you could go for just a building permit. That's a legitimate deficiency in your zoning. You don't have that deficiency whether people feel pro or con for that. So a couple things I like to do. One, just give you what I just read from the Beacon, and to not take too much time, and then I'll be quiet for a bit if you'd like. I think I'd like to respond to her email, and she wrote to me and the town administrator, but directly to me and CC'd Robin. I'd like to CC Robin. I'd like to CC the planning board, and also copy Kurt Meskis, building commissioner, zoning enforcement officer. And I'd like to be as clear and brief as possible, explaining that, again, not in as long a term as I went on just now, but number one, that the planning board is not dealing with the issue of should it be banned or not. That is directly toward the selectmen as the main entity to communicate with, or at least initiate it, and that's what their warrant article the other night said, to the selectmen, et cetera, et cetera. And then it's their issue in terms of whether the town continues or not down that line through the process Koppelman and Page and the state have set up of ballot initiative election or not. Then I want to state that the question to the planning board in this situation is what I stated earlier, that is our zoning sufficient if it's allowed, and for the various reasons, non-residential, commercial, industrial, site plan special permit, what's required in all of that, that prior to today, you've discussed it a few times, and the Economic Development Commission has discussed it. We've been comfortable till today unless someone feels otherwise from the board, and that's the answer back. I do feel, and I want to state, and I realize people may be watching this because will be taped and replayed on cable, that if someone from the community says, well, citizens initiative for the fall town meeting, I'd like to propose a moratorium, I'd like to propose a bylaw that is more restrictive in zoning. For the moratorium, I would not recommend approval. I wouldn't recommend at the public hearing for the planning board support of it, and I wouldn't recommend it at town meeting for the reasons I've already stated. And your bylaw, I think, goes as far as it can without crossing the line of what I read from Koppelman and Page and MMA about being unreasonably restrictive.
The AG might not even approve the moratorium if they.
It's possible too, but you don't know until you can't ask that question of them. If you say, "Would you approve it?" They say, "Well, when we get it, we'll review it." But it's not just that. It's do we need one? There is no zoning deficiency that warrants it. Plus, there's a timeout for the same time period right now. We're in a 1 year to 18-month complete timeout. It's as if functions the same as a statewide moratorium. I'm confused of why these handful of communities, and it's only a handful, have been doing it. I don't know if it's politics or misunderstanding.
It makes them feel better.
It might be that. It
It
really might be that.
It's my understanding we can't do anything while that moratorium from the state is on. Is that correct?
Yes, in a sense, it's not the same instrument, but it functions exactly the same. Under the state procedure that the state has set up on setting up working to create a cannabis control commission and a second commission on permitting and regulatory, setting up, having hearings across the state and all. That whole period of time out right now functions as a moratorium for the same time period. So that's why I'm confounded by the few communities that do it, but that is their business, and I respect whatever
So in
their choices are.
reality, like less than 20% of the whole town are even feasible. Isn't there a thing on how many based on liquor licenses or something?
Yes, the way it works, what we've been told, I've been to two workshops, and Kurt and I went to one of those two, a statewide workshop in March at Holy Cross. And what they told us, maybe things will change, but it seems pretty solid, is that it's a ratio for the number of liquor licenses issued. So since there's 10 in Charlton, the ratio is you can allow up to 20%. So you're not going to get more than 2 anyway. You'll get either 1 or 2. Now a community can propose to go less than 20% without going to 0. But again, you've got to go to a ballot. And what Kurt and I read in what they've given us so far, to put it on the ballot, there's only one particular election, which I don't know which one it is, because it's not our concern. Someone could find that out through the state legislation. And to get it on the ballot, you need I think it said 10% of all registered voters in your community have to sign the petition just to get it on the ballot. In a city like Worcester, that means it's not going to happen. In a town like Charlton, roughly how many registered voters?
96.
How much?
9669.
What? How many?
9,669.
So that means 10% of that would have to get it on the ballot. But again, that's if you wanted to lower it from 20. And in our case, that means you'd be going from 2 to 1 for all that effort.
So 2 max, and then you can't be around schools or daycares that are already established, right? So, I mean, what's the real option that there'd be one on 20? Why would another one go in anyways? Because it'd be competition.
Well, there's another possibility too, another piece of the pie. When you read the information from the state, that if you are an existing permitted medical marijuana, then you have the right to go to the state and get into the permitting process to be also issued eventually, when this 18-month period ends, to sell recreational also. So you might end up with the one that's proposed on Route 20 at the corner of 31 and 20 for medical, which, as they explained at town meeting, the selectmen and town council, that has every legal right to move forward. No one can hinder it. They just have to meet state requirements and eventually the routine site plan design through you when it comes in for site plan. And again, for anybody watching who doesn't understand or isn't familiar with it, you're not determining whether they can be there or not. Site plan review in Massachusetts is just stormwater management parking lot like they're selling anything else. type of thing. So that could someday possibly be the recreational one or one of the two.
So that moratorium is only on recreational use.
Right, you're not allowed to have a moratorium.
So we can go
Right.
ahead in their letter of
Yeah.
intent.
Yes, the as town council explained to folks at town meeting the other night, what we've already gone over in the past, the recreational marijuana legislation is new and is still in flux. The medical one is all memorialized and been in the books for a few years. No community is allowed to ban throughout the whole community the medical. And the medical is in the same boat under our zoning. It's either commercial or industrial. The one you've got will probably be the only one you get. We were told at the last workshop, too, that when the state staff and the regional staff presented at Holy Cross, statewide, there's been about 90, I thought it was 90 licenses, or maybe 75, somewhere in that range. But only about 8 or 9 have actually gone into business, because then they run into financing challenges, because a lot of financing institutes
Nothing to be federal.
with the federal. So what you're seeing more, and that's why this one, if it moves forward, they will be financed. You're seeing large national corporations in that industry do their financing with their funding from out of state. So that company is active in Colorado and other places, so they have funding. But if it was someone wanting to do a startup, they'll never get that funding, you know. So that's it. I know it's an emotional issue. A lot of people in the community have concerns, pro and con, but we follow the law, and that's what we ask. So I would like to respond to that email. Tomorrow I'm at the Smart Growth Conference, but I'd like to respond Friday. Would you like me to respond in that manner, or differently, or respond or not? Whatever. I'm just throwing this out.
Can you wait till Monday, because Friday is not a work day?
Sure, whatever you want me to do.
We don't want you to work on your day off.
Yeah. Well, I do work on Friday. The town hall's closed. I put hours in on
But-
Friday. I don't mind doing it, because I do other stuff
Do
too.
it at your discretion.
But if you want me to,
Yeah, write something and just like reference state law, which was the whole 18-month,
yeah,
so they sort their thing out.
yeah,
Then how 20% of the town allows based upon the current zoning, and then reference this where it says any regulations may not be unreasonable and impractical,
yeah.
which you have already pointed out. And
Russ, would you like to see a copy of it before it gets sent out?
I mean, can't hurt. I mean, we don't. I mean,
I
I've
always,
trusted Alan that
I've never seen
you'll hit
anything
on all the points and they'll be
unprofessionally
very
worded,
informational
everything
for
will be
this,
fine. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine.
for Kristen.
Yeah.
So,
Also, be as clear and simple
Yeah,
on these
absolutely.
points. I won't
Absolutely.
ramble the
Don't
way
go-
I've gone on just now
oh yeah,
conversationally.
absolutely. Keep it simple to the point,
Yeah.
and as far as stuff. But I think they need to. Some people need to have the information about what is currently going on state level as
Yeah.
far as to sort all this stuff out. It's not like, oh, here anyone can go and
Yeah.
open up a recreational facility anywhere. Then it's based upon.
And I
the
think a
liquor
lot of people who are
licenses and stuff
concerned
like that.
say, well, I'm reading the paper or seeing online, there's a bunch of other communities who are doing something now, why aren't we? Again, I'm confounded by the moratorium thing, but B, maybe they have zoning issues we don't. Maybe they don't have a site plan review.
Right.
Maybe they don't have a special permit. We come under categories that it's already established that this rolls right into, and you've gone as far as you can in your zoning bylaw on how strong you are on site plan and special permit. Certainly, there's nothing you can legally add to that, and there's nothing that's missing or deficient. And maybe these other communities are. Maybe that's their reasoning. I don't know, but we've been told the following. And but I think if people feel that they don't want it, then I'm not passing the buck. But the zoning bylaw of the planning board is not the direction to go. It's the direction that they started the other evening and continue in that direction, heading toward what Koppelman and Page has said. You need to go to the election process and address your concern in that direction. And again, you never know. Someone could try to submit something in the fall, but I don't see why and what.
And even if that all happens, if there's already gonna be a medical one, and then the law says you can go to, recreational, then,
Yeah.
then all that
Yeah.
effort and money and time is for nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
So you might as well just follow
Yeah.
this road and.
Anything else, Alan, with this?
No, just that, as I mentioned before, tomorrow I'll be in Worcester. Jane is out tomorrow. We'll just reopen on Monday. And that's it, Mr. Chairman.
We have 2 drafts for our thing. Do we need to have everybody present who's on it?
No, quorum only.
So you need at least 3.
Yes.
Okay, so the January 18th, we do have the 3 people necessary.
Yeah.
Can you take a minute, review it, and,
Anything, Janie, you got yourself both as present and absent.
Oh, I did.
She's
Okay.
here. Might not be in here, but she was here.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank
Pick
you.
one.
Thank you.
because I wasn't there, I'm not gonna be able to vote, but if somebody wishes to make a motion,
Moved as corrected. Or-
Yeah.
Yep,
Second.
second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Can we have the other one for the March 15th? We have enough,
Yeah, you 3 guys can do it.
any questions on the March 15th?
Nope.
Do I have a motion to accept the minutes of the March 15th meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
Yep.
One quick thing before we adjourn. Treehouse, when is there, are they going to, how close are they to open?
Very close. Damien spoke to me yesterday. They're a few weeks away from putting together their as-built plan for site plan review.
Nice.
Yeah. They want to adjust a couple of the landscaping locations where they hit ledge, so that's what we were going over. And for the planning board piece of the pie, like I said, they were shooting for being done when they started last July, this coming July, and now by early June, they'll be coming to you on as-built sign-off for all of our items. I can't speak for the inside of the building, but they had told us a while ago it was in the fall they want to open.
Okay. One thing I was thinking of, everybody's planning on all these people coming to Charlton and everything. Can we do like a brochure or something? Okay, now that you're in Charlton, what else can you do while you're here?
Go play miniature golf?
Yeah,
Golf?
just highlighting other things.
We need to get it in our annual work plan for the time and the cost of it. It's not, there's effort and it's hours and expertise.
Okay.
That's something maybe we want to talk about on another agenda.
Next year's budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
It can be done though, sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Make a brochure and keep it at Treehouse.
Yeah, and some of the other places.
Maybe he'd fund it or contribute to it.
And maybe one of the schools, maybe like Bay Path, with some of the design department could get involved in it. It could be more of a community thing.
Yeah, we can talk about it in upcoming meetings, absolutely.
Good idea.
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.